What are threshold concepts? I'm going to give a brief introduction to the idea of threshold concepts. This is not intended to be a thorough exposé, but rather an initial overview. Threshold concepts are key to a student's understanding of a discipline. They are the most important ideas in a given discipline. They're important because without a clear grasp of these particular concepts, the student cannot gain a full mastery of the topic. It may be possible to feign a superficial grasp of the idea, but that will hamper progression in the long term. So, to succeed, students must have a thorough knowledge and understanding. In this short video, I'm going to rehearse the key components or characteristics of a threshold concept. In doing so, I shall give an example of a threshold concept that's science-based, but general enough for anyone to appreciate. It's a concept you will already have mastered, the notion that the Earth travels around the Sun. I shall use this as an example to illustrate the characteristics of a threshold concept. As a child, or indeed as an adult in earlier times, it might seem obvious that the Sun travels around the Earth. After all, the evidence from our senses tells us that the Sun rises in the east, travels across the sky, and sets in the west every day. However, we know from science that this is not true. The Earth revolves around the Sun, not the other way round. We'll return to this concept through the video to illustrate the characteristics of threshold concepts. There are 5 characteristics of threshold concepts. I shall take you through each one: transformative, irreversible, integrative, bounded, and troublesome. So firstly, transformative. One aspect of threshold concepts is that once you have fully absorbed a concept, you change the way that you view the world. Much like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. The butterfly is quantifiably different to a caterpillar. It can fly and it has different functions to fulfill. In our example of a threshold concept as understanding that the Earth revolves around the Sun, once we absorb this knowledge, we have literally changed our understanding of the world. Knowing that the Earth revolves around the Sun changes us as much as a butterfly changes when it ceases to be a caterpillar. Irreversible. Threshold concepts are irreversible. Once you fully absorb this new idea, it's impossible to simultaneously hold this concept and the previous state of understanding. In the same way that an egg, once it's been boiled or fried, can't return to its previous state. Knowing that the Earth revolves around the Sun, we can't really put ourselves back into a state where we fundamentally believe that the Sun is revolving around the Earth. It's perhaps for this reason that experts are sometimes challenged when teaching a fundamental concept to novice learners. It may also explain why at times it can be easier for students to learn from someone who themselves recently absorbed a threshold concept than someone for whom it's been second nature for a long time. Threshold concepts are usually integrative, which means that they draw on a number of underlying theories or concepts. So I'm suggesting here with this illustration that the sweater looks like a complete item, but a closer look shows the weave of the fabric that was used to create it. In the same way, a threshold concept is often an idea of some complexity that builds on previous learning. So for example, with the Earth revolving around the Sun, threshold concept, in order to have any concept of this, the learner must first have a notion that the Earth and the Sun are orbs in space, rather than that the Earth is a static flat plane and the Sun is a two-dimensional object. Bounded. This can be quite problematic. Sometimes the threshold concept is so intrinsic to the discipline or the stage of study that it's presented as an unquestionable fact. While there are some facts that are beyond discussion, there's usually room for some sort of scholarly critique. Indeed, one of the key skills that most professors would say we teach is critical thinking. New learning, as with research, comes from questioning or building on what has gone before. So it is important that we're able to take a critical stance. Teaching threshold concepts as a firm, unchanging idea can be problematic for this reason. Threshold concepts are also bounded in the sense that they usually constitute a complete idea. For example, with the Earth revolving around the Sun, it's impossible to have a complete model of the movement of the two spheres in one's mind in order to grasp the concept. They are also troublesome. Because of their very nature, a threshold concept changes the way we see the world and understand it. Therefore, they can be, and often are, troublesome. It's because of this troublesome nature that people have difficulty in grasping the threshold concept. Returning again to the Earth revolving around the Sun, when Galileo proposed in the 17th century that this was the case, this was considered so troublesome as to be heretical and led to his trial and subsequent house arrest by the Roman Inquisition. Learners' difficulty with threshold concepts is often seen in a seeming movement back and forth over the threshold of understanding. While in the process of learning the threshold concept, the learner may seem to get it, but then move back into a state of not absorbing the concept. This movement is common and is called a liminal state, where the learner is not quite a novice, but neither have they absorbed the content. Once they go across the threshold, from one space into another, they're no longer in a liminal space, and they've grasped the concept, and their understanding has changed. So, in summary, threshold concepts are key ideas a learner must understand in order to progress in the discipline or subject. They are fundamental to understanding. They are notoriously difficult to teach and to learn, but once learnt, they become part of one's worldview. In order to teach a threshold concept, it's helpful to appreciate why a learner might find the notion difficult, and thinking about the key characteristics of transformative, irreversible, integrative, bounded, and troublesome can help.